the reality is with 40% less listings, everybody's a lot slower than they normally typically are. We have to just ride through this. It's going to be a weird market. 2023, we're not going to see the listings that we're normally seeing.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how home sales are cooling, but the competition remains red hot. We're going to be talking about whether having a 3% interest rate is a blessing or a curse or both. And then we're also going to get into in or out, whether Shawn battles in or out on 3 houses across the United States. Shawn, let's start with an article from Inman.com. Home sales are cooling, but the competition is red hot. What gives? This comes to us via a housing inventory report by Redfin that states that new listings have plunged 21.8% from a year ago, marking one of the most significant annual drops since the beginning of the pandemic. Shawn, new listings are down, but it seems like the competition levels, people trying to buy houses, they're exhausted, they're tired, they're frustrated. That hasn't changed at all. So what's been going on with the market?
Yeah, that's exactly it. There is just low inventory. There's no churn of a lot of listings. We're in spring right now, and this usually is bringing out the most listings that we're going to have all year. And there really aren't a ton. When you look at data, I mean, I don't look at data all the time, but I just quickly glanced at something and they're down. I mean, the condo market, for example, 63 condos on the market along the orange line. The housing market, there definitely isn't a ton out there, and the stuff that is good and priced right, it sells quickly. So my feeling was, and I wasn't looking at data, I was talking to you about this before, was like, I feel like there's buyers out there. It's not like I felt in the past where there's just so many buyers, but the fact is that there's even less listings. So it feels like there are a lot of buyers out there and there is a lot of competition. So it's this weird thing that the buyer pool isn't huge like it's been in the past, but the seller market is so much smaller that these people are still competing to get into whatever comes on the market.
So Bright MLS also does like weekly reports, and Bright MLS is like DC, Maryland, Baltimore, Richmond, Philadelphia, some more, I'd just call it like mid-Atlantic. They, compared to a year ago, the week ending April 2nd, 2023, new listings are down 40%. So Redfin's report, new listings down 20% nationwide, but more in our region of the DC area, listings are down 40%. So twice as few listings in our area. So, Shawn, we can talk as much as we want about, interest rates and higher interest rates. But the reality is interest rates aren't the problem. It's inventory. And you said, the good properties, they're going quick. The bad properties, they're sitting on the market. And that's kind of a cop-out because, like, of course that would happen. But the good properties are still getting multiple contracts and going thousands and tens of thousands of dollars over the asking price.
Yeah. And, it's frustrating for buyers because there's a lot of buyers out there that are like, well, in this type of market, I don't want to be competing. I don't want to compete. I have cash buyers out there that are looking and they're like, Shawn, we're willing to pay a top dollar for these properties, but I just don't want to get into this bidding war. And it's frustrating because it's like, like I said to them today, I actually said this. I was like, listen, it's hard to find something where we want in the price point we want. And these are high level buyers, right? But I was like, it takes time to find that perfect house. But guess what? When you find that perfect house, other people are going to find that same perfect house. And it's just the reality of it. People are looking for the right one, and it's always going to be competitive when it's going to be a hot listing. It's just the way it is.
Well, right? It's like the buyers that say, oh, well, when rates come down, then I'm going to buy a house.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so is everyone.
Exactly. So when are you going to get in? And that's the toughest thing. It's like, there's a lot of people that want to get into this market. And here's another thing. I was asked a question the other day. I was like, how do you push buyers? How do you get them ready and say, all right, now is the right time to buy? And I'm like, I don't. I say, listen, this is what your number is going to be. This is what your interest rate is. Do you feel comfortable? Can you make that payment for the next 20 years? That's the way you should be looking at this. It shouldn't be, hey, because interest rates have jumped that quickly. So it becomes that affordability level. And, over the last 2 years, prices have jumped like crazy. And now interest rates have jumped. So it's like these prices, are they coming down? Yeah, in some instances they are, but in other instances, because of the low inventory, they're staying up, And so people are like, man, I thought I was going to be spending, $3,000. Now I'm spending $4,000 a month,
So in our area, new closed sales down 40% from a year ago. New purchase contracts, so under contract, down 24%. New listings down 40%. You're going to see articles come out that is saying real estate prices are down, real estate transactions are down, but it can be so misleading, Shawn, when there's like a lot of condos that sell that bring down the price, or if there's just fewer houses on the market. Of course, there's going to be 40% less closed sales. Of course, there's going to be this massive drop off.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you can't say, oh, the sales aren't happening. It's the listings aren't happening. So there's still people out there that want to buy at 6.5%. There's plenty of them. There's tons of them, but we're not seeing the listings. And what's happening now, and honestly, I talk to a lot of real estate agents, and a lot of people just call me. They know I've been in the business for 20 years, and they're friends of mine or whatever, and they're like, hey, how's your year going? And I'm like, it's slower than normal. And they're like, God, thanks for saying that. Because I'm super slow. I've heard it multiple times. Everybody is going to have their ups and downs in real estate. I say this so many times. It's like, Matt right now is crushing it this year. Shawn is a little bit slower than normal. Other agents might be crushing it. There's plenty of other agents that are very slower than all of us. And the reality is, with 40% less listings, everybody's a lot slower than they normally typically are. And so we have to just ride through this. It's going to be a weird market. 2023, we're not going to see the listings that we're normally seeing. And I think it's because people just, interest rate wise, can't move forward and all that stuff.
If you do want to see the listing, Shawn, you can start selling in Austin and get your Texas license because according to Inman, inventory in Austin's piling up. The city has a 4.4 months supply of homes, more than anywhere in the country, and prices are down 15% year over year. Buyers have more power right now. Austin Redfin agent Andrew Vilano said in a statement, the silver lining of high rates and slow market is we've been experiences that some locals have been able to buy in the neighborhoods that they couldn't have gotten into last year. So, this is what the real estate market is. It's either going to be extremely crazy and unfair in DC, and there's going to be no house available, or in Austin, Texas, every single house is going to be for sale and prices are going to be down 15% year over year.
Yeah, there's nothing
it's
you
one
can
or
do
the
about
other.
It's one or the other.
That's how the real estate market works.
Right. So invest one place when it's slow. You can't time this stuff and you just don't know. And every time I think I've got my handle on it, it's like, no, you're wrong. You don't know what's coming up. We're going to slap you in the face. Yeah, we were used to an increasing market for so long, but these things happen quickly. They change quickly. We never expected 3%, 4% higher interest rates in a year. Never could have predicted it. Look at what that's done to the banking system, to the real estate markets. It's upended them. And there's not room for sellers to sell, and there's not room for buyers to buy because there's no inventory. So it's a really weird situation. I can say that I haven't seen something like this before. I've seen the downturns of 2007, 2008, which was totally different. There just was no activity whatsoever. Now, there's still a lot of buyers out there and they're competing, and it sucks that you have to compete at a 6.5% interest rate at one point, whatever $1 million to get a single family house in Arlington. But it's a reality. And you know what I tell them, I was like, our area just seems to keep, and take this with a grain of salt, but I was thinking, last year, these people paid a lot of money. Guess what? This year it's even higher, so it continually goes up. Yeah, we're going to see little dips but in the long run, it usually is on the higher end.
Speaking of interest rates, Shawn, let's move on to our next article from Fortune. We're prisoners. 3% mortgage rates are a blessing and a curse. So we experienced a glimpse in history where people were getting interest rates between 2 and 3%. And that's, a big financial win, or at least seems to be. And I've talked with friends, and I'm going to make kind of a weird analogy, so hang with me here. But, in elementary school, we would like have Pokemon cards, and everyone would open up a pack, and people would be like, oh, what did you get? Oh, I got a Squirtle. What did you get? Oh, I got a Pikachu. And then someone's like, what did you get? I got a Charizard. And everyone, the guy that got the Charizard is like, oh, this guy got the Charizard. The people that have the 2.5% rates are the people that have the Charizard.
Yeah.
They really want to know what your interest rate is so they can play the Charizard. Be like, yeah, I got a 2.5%.
Yeah.
So so that's cool when it's 75 degrees and sunny. But then you get a new job. Then you have a baby. Then you get married. Then you get a divorce. Then
life happens.
Mom and dad move in, or then you experience a death in the family, and we've come to think and say that the phrasing has been like, who would ever sell a 3% mortgage? This is a commodity. I'm going to be a landlord now. I'm an accidental landlord. Like we saw that. Who would ever sell if they had a 2% mortgage rate? Well, what if you're not happy? What if you don't like the house? What if you don't like the neighbors? What if the basement floods? What if it's too hot? What if it's too cold? What if you moved to this small city that, during the pandemic that you no longer like? So that leads up to us talking about the blessing and the curse. You can have your 2.5%, your Charizard mortgage, if you will, but what if you hate it? What happens next, Shawn? Because if you sell, then you're hit with an interest rate of maybe triple, maybe double, maybe triple of what you had before. You're going to be able to afford half of the house, and then you don't have the perks of ownership. So, Shawn, is the 3% a blessing and a curse?
Yeah, I think it could be, right? I mean, I think it's more of a blessing than a curse, but this is reality. People buy things thinking they're going to move in 3 years. And I did it. I bought and I was like, I'm going to sell it in 3 years. It's going to be fine. Well, it wasn't. And I had to hold on to that thing. And, what happens is now they're at 3%. They have to buy now at 6.5%. It's not going to, they want to move up. There's no way they can afford it. They're like, all right, well, we might as well just stay. And that's what the inventory problem is. People are like, I'll just suck it up for a couple more years and I'll wait until I can do it. It's exactly what I did. And then, sooner or later it comes to a head and you're like, I got to get out of this place, man. Like, what am I going to do? So in one regard, all of your equity is tied up into this property, right? So you just put all your life savings into this property to put 20% down or whatever you did. And now it's tied up into this property. And now you're cash poor. Okay. So you can't just hold on to this, and you need your equity out of this to go and move and buy something else. So what do? Do you rent? Do you rent out this spot? Maybe you can rent it out of profit, but in this area locally, you probably can't. You're probably cash flow even or negative. So now you're negative there, and you have to go rent for a couple of years. And this is exactly what I did too. But life happens and things change and families grow, and, you bought too small of a place and now you want to be, closer to your kid's school, or, whatever it is. You want a bigger backyard, you want a dog, all this stuff. Life changes. And so when people buy thinking, oh, I'm going to live here for 3 years and then I'm going to move, it's the same thing as interest rates, your payment going up and it being impossible to move forward. That is what's happening. So people are like, well, why am I going to spend? Right now I'm spending $800, but for another bedroom and a bath, wait, I'm going to spend $2,000 a month. Like, no, like that's some of the articles I was reading in the comparisons. It was like, for another bedroom, I'm going to more than double my payment. There's no freaking way I can do this. So they're stuck. I
want to share one example from the article. Jennifer Lovelace, 38-year-old realtor and owner of a local surf school in St. Augustine, Florida. She purchased her home in January 2020 for $215,000 at a interest rate of 3.25, monthly payment after putting down 10%, $1,300. And they bought it thinking it'd be the perfect starter home that they'd be able to sell or rent out in a couple of years. But here's the important part. Home values in her area have gone up along with interest rates, making it impossible for them to even consider moving up. And the only way to afford more is to go inland, which isn't feasible for them. Now, Shawn, home values in our area have gone up so much along with interest rates, making it impossible for them to even consider moving up. Hello, home values have gone up. Why don't you sell your house if home values have gone up? And then it says, oh, well, they can't, the only way they can afford to move is if they go inland, which isn't feasible for them. I don't understand what's not feasible. Your commute's going to be a little bit longer. You're going to spend more on gas. This is, if you want to have a bigger house in this market, you got a couple options, and saying it isn't feasible or that it's impossible for them to even consider moving up. If values have gone up so much in your area, I bet your $215,000 house has gone up, but you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can see both sides, right? So, yes, you can move inland, and maybe did you say she runs like a surf school? So she's got to get to the coast. So maybe that's the reason she doesn't want to go inland, is because the commute's going to be bigger. I get it. I've done the move around. I didn't necessarily want to live here, but I did because I couldn't afford here. We're all going to do that. But I think the thing is, yes, their value has gone up. But say her $250,000 house is now worth $350,000, and what she wanted to buy was $450,000, which is now $550,000, and at a 6.5% interest rate compared to 3.5%, your payment is doubling again, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it doesn't make sense. She could fold all of that equity in to the next house, but everything has gone up 20%. Everything has gone up 30%. Not only that, but the interest rates have doubled. So your cost is just prohibitive. And not only that, taxes have gone up probably because they've reassessed. So everything has gone up. And it's honestly the weirdest thing, right? Because you would think that with the increase in interest rates in a lot of areas, this has happened where the increase has dropped prices a little bit. But because we're seeing low inventory, we're still seeing some prices rise. And so it's such a weird thing because we have seen such a huge rise in interest rates, but we're still seeing a rise in prices. And it's like, man, what gives here,
I have a feeling, yes, something has to give. So, Shawn, for Jennifer, and they go into a few similar stories of insert homeowner who's paying $1,000, they have a baby, and if they want to move up, now their new mortgage would be like $2,200, which is like an absurd jump, because any lender is going to look at how much you pay in rent and then say, okay, well, what's your estimated mortgage? Oh, 3 times that? Yeah, this probably won't work out. But something is going to happen. So how does this story end? Does Jennifer, does the homeowner, are they eventually going to sell, or are they, because it doesn't look like they have the means to keep this as a rental. Everyone just says, oh, just keep it as a rental. Yeah, just keep it as a rental. We don't talk about how much it costs to move to that next property, whether you could even rent the next place, but like you just said, the equity is already tied up in the first property.
Yeah, and there's, you can put 3% down, 5% down, but guess what? Your payment now is huge because you got a 6.5% to 7% mortgage. And so your equity's tied up. And let's just use our local area as an example. And you bought a place and now you want to sell it, and your equity's tied up, but your monthly payment is X, and your rental value is less than your actual payment, which is happening a lot in this area. So even if you go and rent somewhere, you're tacking on $300, $500, $400 a month because you're cash flow negative, right? So it's hard to move in any direction because no matter what, it's going to be a negative, right? And not only that, think about this. If you did say you did have some cash and you were like, hey, I'm going to go buy another house. Well, this is now bringing in $3,000 a month. Your payment is $4,000 or $3,500. So you're losing $500, but the lender will not take the whole $3,000 as towards your debt to income ratio. They're going to take 75% of that. So you have to remember, when you're purchasing something and this now becomes an investment property, that's a negative to you. It's an asset to you, but it's also, in a lender's eyes, they're saying, well, this is a rental thing and we can't give you the full value of the rental. We will give you 75%. So now your debt to income ratio has dropped by the difference there. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. So when they go purchase another property, they're like, well, wait, why can't I buy this house? Oh, it's because we're only using this as 75% of the full value. So think about that when you're going to purchase. And the first thing you should always do is talk to a lender to make sure before you put your house on the market, make sure you're making the right decision financially, because you might think that, oh, I did the numbers and no, lenders are going to have different stipulations on what you can do and how you can do it. And then they're going to look at the debt to income ratios a different way that you might. And so you have to be careful on that. Don't make a decision without checking in with a lender first.
Last example in the article before we move on. Mason Martinez, 34-year-old realtor in Tucson, Arizona, bought his home in 2021. And now he and his wife would like to get a home with a bigger backyard for their 3 kids. However, Martinez says it's just not in the cards right now. It doesn't make sense. If you bought a house in 2021 and you have 3 kids and now you're saying 2 years later you need a bigger backyard, I'm sorry. You should not have bought that house.
Yeah.
Unless you had triplets 6 months ago that you think are going to need a bigger backyard. 3 kids, and then you bought a house in 2021, you better have gotten a bigger backyard then.
Yeah, I think that was bad planning in that regard. I mean, like you have to take some responsibility for yourself at that point and say, I made a mistake. I bought the wrong house, and that's another thing is don't get sucked in to the whole house buying frenzy. You have to just cool out, just relax a little bit. A lot of times, first weekend on the market, it's always going to be the toughest time to get a deal because everybody, that's the first week on the market. You don't know what's going to happen, right? And so if my clients tell me like, hey, I want this house, get it for me, I'm going to tell them how to get it on that first week, right? But it might be available next week. It might be available the next week. And that's when you're going to get your better deal. So if you can just pull yourself back a little bit and say, all right, is this the right home for me? I almost wrote a contract the other day. We almost ratified it. My clients called me right before we ratified. They're like, you know what? Stop. This isn't the right house. We went through it in our minds. We placed the furniture. We did this. We're like, you know what? There were a couple things off. I don't want to ratify it. And I'm like, thank you for telling me now. Pull the offer. So you have to analyze that property and say, is this the best property for me? And not every property is going to be perfect. You're not going to find the perfect home. You've got to figure out which items you can live with and which ones you can live without. And if I had 3 kids, I'd be looking for a nice yard, a fenced in yard so they can play. That's what I did. Thankfully, I found the right one. I'm fenced in. My kids play. And you know what? I have a 2-year-old right now, and he wants to run to that street every time. And I'm like, dude, thank God I have this front fence, It's hard. Hey, home buying is tough. It's not for everybody. It's just like investing in stocks. I'm not very good at investing in stocks. Sometimes my heart gets into it too much. And when it should be a cut and dry kind of thing, it's like, no, I got to have it. It's not easy. Don't get wrapped up into it. Try to pull yourself back a little bit and make a conscious decision, not a heart decision, but a conscious financial decision on your next home and make sure it's the right one. It's tough. Hard,
Shawn,
man.
let's move on to in or out, whether you are in or out on a couple houses. One of these houses is a beach house. One of them is a house in Pennsylvania. So I'm really hitting home for you.
Okay, he knows.
First house is actually in St. Augustine. So if our lovely friend Jennifer from the previous article, Jennifer the realtor, maybe wants to up her income a little bit, she can find a buyer for this $1.199 million house, basically $1.2 million beach house, 2 beds, 3.5 bathrooms, 2,000 square feet. Shawn, it's on stilts. And this has taken the internet by storm because people are asking, how do you even get into this property? It's right on the beach, right on the water. It's the famous Vilano Beach blue house that is built to withstand the elements, double pane glass, storm doors, storm windows, everything storm oriented. Could be a great vacation rental. Looks like they're doing some work in it. Could also be a short-term rental. Gotta love that. Gotta love these photos.
Pull the ladder and the rake out of
yeah, you know what?
Clean up the counter.
Yeah, what is going on?
What is happening here?
Well, pictures aside, Shawn, are you in or out on the beach house on stilts for $1.199?
You know I love me some
You
beach
want
houses.
a beach house in Florida.
I want a beach house in Florida. I want to be on the water, but the first picture of this is actually very scary. I would be scared all the time if I bought this house. It is on stilts, but it's like, how is it even staying up?
This
right?
is my nightmare.
This is a night. I would be freaking out all the time. You would be at home at your house here and you'd be freaking out about this house because you're like, what if one big wave comes? What if this? I don't care what they say if this is built to withstand. I don't think those stilts are built to withstand.
This thing could be grounded into the core of the earth, and I would not be able to sleep comfortably.
There's no way, man. If one big wave comes, it's hitting that second floor. There's no way I'm buying this. I mean, it's scary. It's scary. I don't know how they're going to sell this.
Tell me you're out on a Florida beach house.
I'm out, man.
Well, the first words of the property overview are back on the market. Yeah. I wonder why.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next house. This is also from Realtor.com. This comes to us from Harley, Pennsylvania. So, Shawn, this is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 3,100 square foot home for $499. What's cool about this house is that it actually has a tree house attached to the house. So let me pull up the photos so you can check out the tree house. It kind of has this cottage, rustic vibe to it. You can see the tree house over there on the left-hand side, like very like camp-esque. And Harley, Pennsylvania, do you know where that is?
I don't know. Where is
It's kind of Wilkes-Barre, Scranton,
Got it.
a little northeast of that. Think of it as your summer home, or maybe a nice, retreat in nature. Are you in or out on the Pennsylvania house with a treehouse?
I'm in on this. This is cool. I mean, just learning of it, just seeing the pictures. I love the pulling in the tree house to the regular house. The interior looks really cool. It's rustic, but very well done. I don't know. It's probably not near water, which is a downside for me. I like some water, but it's in the woods. It kind of feels like that camp, like what do they call that? Upscale camping, glamping, right?
Glamping.
Yeah.
Well, it's mostly all updated on the inside. It's got like a modern, fresh take on the inside.
And cool stairways. You got like a spiral staircase in one. Yeah, I think for the area, it's probably a little high on the price, $500,000 in the middle of like Wilkes-Barre area. But I'm not in the market up there, so I don't really know. It's got a stream and
got a little waterfall and some goldfish.
At that. That's awesome. That deck with this is cool. I'm definitely in on this.
I'm trying to find the treehouse. Yeah, I think we saw
the treehouse. There it is.
Yeah, dude, I'm in on it. I think I give Pennsylvania a hard rap. Like I don't really enjoy Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, but these kind of
swearing to me, Matt.
I know. But these kind of little like random little towns, are they townships in Pennsylvania? Is that
Sure,
what they are?
Townships.
Something about Pennsylvania in the summertime is cool to me. I think I went to like a Boy Scout camp in Sinaquippi. Does that word mean anything to you? I don't know if that's could be in Maryland, could be in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's known for that. I mean, Pennsylvania's a very wooded, pretty area. There's mountains, there's a lot of forests, national forests. It's a really pretty area. Pittsburgh, I grew up there, so I have a fondness for it. But when I go back, I'm like, I probably couldn't live here again. You know what I mean? Like that kind of feel. But actually, our electrician, Adrian's there right now. He keeps texting me. He's like, hey, do you know this place? I'm like, yeah, it's right on Pitt campus. He's loving it, but Pittsburgh isn't for everybody, but it's a really good town. Anyways, this house in Wilkes-Barre area, I used to live up in the Pocono Mountains for a little while. The one drawback is that it's sometimes can be very wooded and just feels like you don't get a lot of daylight, and that kind of drives me nuts. But this house is super cool.
You get some sky there. You get a little bit of sky.
You do get sky there. Okay. It looks like they kind of cut out the trees and put that sky in.
It does look like it's the home visit special.
Yeah. But I'm in. I like it. I dig it.
All right. Final house is
one.
modern mountain contemporary glass and copper home in West Virginia. So take a look at this property. You have the all glass with this kind of, I don't even know what to call that material on the outside.
It looks like copper because it's weathered now. It's
weathered
green.
copper. Yeah. I should have read the title. So 3,000 square foot house, took 3 years to build near the Maryland state line, finished in 2012. Shawn, it is on the market for over $1 million. Let's see. $1.5 million in Hedgesville, West Virginia. Now, you just spoke like you know the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton real estate market. Do you know the Hedgesville,
Now
West Virginia?
we're going to talk about West Virginia, folks. I was just there.
You know the Hedge. You were just there.
I was just in West Virginia, but it wasn't Hedgesville.
At Greenbrier.
Yeah.
But Shawn, are you in or out on the Copper Contemporary House for $1.5 million?
I have no idea where this is. It's a very cool house. I have to say, if it was the house alone, I would definitely be a purchaser on this because it is just cool. Now the back side is not so cool, but the front side is really a cool looking place. Glass walls with the exposed
Doesn't it
copper.
get cold in West Virginia?
It does.
How's the insulation going to be?
Yeah, it better. Oh yeah. Well, that's just the exterior facade. But looking out that one window, you see a mountain right there, right? And that's the crazy thing is I was down in Greenbrier, which is south, go 81 south in Virginia and then cross to whatever 64 and boom, right? It's about a 3.5 hour drive from here. First time down there, and it's super pretty. Once you start getting into those mountains, it's like, man, this is really, really pretty. I was surprised because I was talking to our carriage driver when we took the horse carriage out. And I was like, hey, how much do these home plots go for? And he's like, $2 million and up. And I was like, what? $2 million? Like, this is in nowhere, West Virginia. You're kidding me. It's all about being on the resort. It's being right on that golf course. The golf course is expensive to play. But I was so surprised that they were going $2 million and up. So I'm like, this is 1.5. This is
the course that no one plays.
Yeah, no one was on it. I mean, granted, it was an early time of the year.
They just want to look at it.
Yeah, but so anyways, very pretty, mountainous, beautiful. I think I'm a player at this. I mean, you know, I don't know where it's located, but the house is cool, so I'll buy it. Let's put it that way.
I am out on 1.5. 1.5
million is tough
in West Virginia. That my facade is not going to look like Billy's house for 1.5.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's going to look something different. I love the windows. I love the views. I'm a fan of West Virginia in general, but my $1.5 million house is going to look different than this. So
yeah, I mean, I'm talking, what is it? I have unlimited money.
Right. That's the game. Like if you had $1.5 million to spend, would it be on this house? I don't know if that's what we wanted to frame it as.
It's a cool house. I'm buying it. I think the mountain views are going to be amazing. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
You know? And it's super relaxing out there. You're just out with nature. And that's one thing is like when you get out there, your blood pressure goes down. You're like, you just get away from everything. And that's what people need. So $1.5 million for sanity, I think is what we need.
$1.5 million for sanity. That's it.
That's it.
Okay. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.